It's my pleasure today to be joined by veteran NPR and PBS journalist Dave Iverson to talk about his new book, An Elderly Mother, an Aging Son, and Life's Final Journey. With his journalist's eye, Dave details an intimate, unvarnished portrait of the challenges, choices, and life lessons that lie ahead for family caregivers, present and future. First of all, Dave, can you introduce us to your mom, Adelaide? She reminds me of somebody who I can fairly call, what I like to call my own mom, a pistol.
Yeah, very much. Probably the most common phrase people used to use to describe my mom was that she was a force of nature. And she was indomitable. I mean, she was just always on the move, always a creature of action. She was very much a person who wanted to get things done. She was very bright. Had a lively mind. She graduated from high school when she was 16, college at age 20, became a career person, and in that time, that was not always the norm. She used to like to say that when she got married at the age of 30, and 31 actually, and she said she used to like to say, and I didn't even know how to fry an egg. I mean, she was not your prototypical homemaker, and she was a real powerhouse. And my dad was a very successful man, but she was someone who was every bit as successful, not a career person in the sense that we use it today, but a vibrant, vital part of the community, an active volunteer, tutored women at the county jail, registered voters, was active in so many ways, and a loving spouse and a mother of three. And she had great staying power. My dad, she was my introduction to caregiving, by the way. She took care of my dad, who had Parkinson's disease and who had a rough time toward the end of his life, did well for a long time, but she was there. And she really showed me what true caring can be. And that stuck with me. And it was part of why, when it was her turn to need some help, that I wanted to try to step forward.
And you mentioned your dad had Parkinson's. You as well have Parkinson's. Yet at the same time, you moved in with your mom to care for her. How did the fact of you having Parkinson's affect your thought process on moving in with your mom?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. Parkinson's, as you may know, Gary, is an intensely varied condition. It's very idiosyncratic, and I happen to be one of the lucky ones. I have a very slow progressing form of the disease. Apparently, the medications work really well for me. And so I've been able to, even at the time I was diagnosed, I was feeling pretty, good. There was some naivete to that, but I also think in an odd way, I wanted to do it in part because I think anytime you have a chronic condition, debilitating condition of some sort, you still want to feel like you're capable. You still want to feel like you can do things. And I think deciding to move into my mom in an odd way, it sounds like, what were you thinking? You've been diagnosed with Parkinson's and now you're doing this, but in an odd way, I think it was partly because I really wanted to do it and I felt like I could, and I wanted to feel like I could make that kind of contribution. And I was enormously fortunate, as we may have a chance to discuss, to be joined by remarkable women caregivers who were there during the day so that I could continue to work. It wasn't like I was giving everything up to do this. So I had a lot of built-in advantages.
And as you can see, one of our covers for today's Caregiver magazine, Michael Fox wrote one of the blurbs on your book.
Well, I got to know Michael a little bit when I was making a film for the PBS Frontline series about Parkinson's. It was a film called My Father, My Brother, and Me, and it began with sort of my own family story, but used that as a way to explore the research into Parkinson's and where we were and trying to find a cure. And so I met Michael through that process, later became involved with the Fox Foundation in a lot of varied ways, and served on their patient council for 10 years. And I just have enormous regard, not only for him, but for the entire foundation. I just think they're fantastic. I was really grateful that Michael wrote that statement about the book. It means a lot to me at a lot of different levels.
Well, it shows your gratitude shows in the fact that you're donating proceeds from the book to the foundation.
I'm lucky to be able to do that. I'm at a point in my life where that makes sense. And so I wanted it to benefit the Michael J. Fox Foundation, as well as another wonderful organization that supports people living with Parkinson's called Dance for PD, Dance for Parkinson's, which is an astonishing organization led by David Leventhal out of the Mark Morris Dance Group that provides dance instruction for people and their caregivers living with Parkinson's all over the world in well over 300 cities all around the globe. And also, and then the royalties will also go to support a local caregiving and aging nonprofit here in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Let's talk about your expectations when you moved in to care for your mom. How those were blown out of the water within the, possibly, I'm making assumptions, within the first few weeks, and also that wonderful team that you pulled together and help you. How did that all work out?
Yeah, I think back on that time a lot. I was 59 at the time, so late in my career, but still very active. Broadcast journalist, working in documentary film, hosting a local radio show for the NPR affiliate in San Francisco. But my mom and I had always been really close, and we got along really well. We had a very special relationship, and there was a certain amount of naivete about my choice, thinking, well, she needs help. I'm available. My life is full but flexible. I was single at the time. My daughter was grown, married, living on the East Coast. I can do this. And it was really almost that simple. And in some ways, I've come to think that was lucky, actually, that I was that naive or that much in denial, because sometimes that means you do things that you wouldn't otherwise do.
If you knew better.
Yeah, and I'm grateful. I mean, it was in so many ways one of the hardest things I've ever done, but also in the end, one of the most rewarding. It changed me. It humbled me. It brought me up short. It revealed my weaknesses in stunning clarity. And
shared your strengths too. That's the other part.
Yes, I think that's also true. So, just little things. I never knew I'd get so tired. I never knew I'd get so exhausted. I mean, we all know sleep matters, but there's nothing like caring for someone, big caregiver, to make you realize how crucial sleep is and how badly you can do if you don't sleep well. And I could get cranky. I could get irritable. I yelled at my mom, Gary, more than I'd like to admit. It was kind of horrifying and revealing to me. And it changed me accordingly. And also changed me because I had the great good fortune of being accompanied by such incredible women whose gifts and skills were extraordinary, and who, again, do work that I don't think we do a very good job in this country of recognizing.
Tell me about managing this care team. We always say caregivers are the CEO of Caring for a Loved One, Inc., but you had a built-in team. What were your thoughts? What were your expectations? And how did it work out that you were able to have this amazing team around you? And what did you learn from it?
The kind of rule of thumb that I developed was that to really pay attention when I was interviewing someone, to really see how that person interacted with my mom, because that really matters, whether or not there's a connection. And also to just trust my feeling about that if this was a person if I could imagine this person showing up at my mom's front door and ringing the bell and my opening the door, would I feel really glad to see her, or would I feel anxious and worried? And if it was the former, that was probably a pretty good indicator, because I learned quickly that not only my mom's day depended on this person, but mine did too. and whether or not that was going to work was really crucial.
Trust your instincts.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I learned was that my relationship to them mattered. It wasn't just their relationship to my mom, it was our relationship. We spent a lot of time together. We talked together sometimes late at night. I'd make dinner and we'd eat, or, we got to know each other's stories. We got to know each other's life journey. And I had so much respect for them. And they knew that, they knew that I respected them.
Dave, walk me through the book. Let's open the first page and walk me through the end, and tell me what you want a caregiver to feel, learn, get by the end of reading it.
Well, it begins with my decision to make the choice that I did, which I sometimes refer to as the 10-second decision, to move in with my mom, and why that was true, and how I was quickly sobered by what that involved. That I came to realize that no matter how common caregiving is, that we somehow manage not to think about this eventuality very much. I talk about how, we all think a lot about becoming a parent. We are excited about it. We read up on it. We browse websites about it. Well, not in my day, but for most. And we anticipate it with great joy and expectation. And yet we somehow manage not to prepare to become caregivers. We move on to thinking about, almost anything else other than that reality. And so we enter into this, with so little knowledge. And I think that, I write in the book that, it's true that few of us are fully prepared to become parents, but I don't think there are many people at all who are prepared to care for a parent. And so we enter into this journey like uncharted waters. We don't really know where we're going. We don't know how long this journey is going to last. We don't have a very good map, even though there ought to be maps available. And we're surprised constantly. We think we know what we're doing. We've got a good plan, and then it all falls apart, and then it comes back together, and then it falls apart again. There's just so much uncertainty, and coming to accept that is one of the things you have to learn. So I write about that. I write about my mom's story and my dad's story, about who they were and how I came to understand them better, really only later in life, and their relationship, and what I learned from that, and what I took from them, and why it inspired me in part to become a caregiver. I try to write about all the challenges. I hope that the book is honest and unvarnished, that you get angry, that you fail, that you say things you wish you hadn't. And I write about that one of the perhaps silver linings of caregiving is that if you want to, if there are aspects of your character that you'd like to improve, I don't think there are many better opportunities for that than becoming a caregiver. And therein is the opportunity for a lot. Write about the way it deepened my relationship with my mom and caregivers. I write about how it also changed in some ways how I dealt with my own Parkinsons and those lessons. I write about all the things we're not prepared to think about, that we may think we've done all the right things. We've filled out an advance directive and we've made those choices, but especially late in life, it's not as simple as just saying, okay, well, of course, I don't want any extraordinary means to keep me alive. I don't want to be, I don't want to be put on a respirator. It's not that easy. There may come a time when you have to decide, well, do I really want to treat this UTI with antibiotics or not? There are a lot of complexities to that you really, I think it's important to begin to think through. And there's a,
It is like, it's interesting that you brought up being a parent, because it is one of life's journeys that we don't pay attention to till we fall into the abyss. You know you're going to have a baby. You've walked into that. You know, you're on that roller coaster. You know, your kids go off to college. You're on that roller coaster, and now you fall off in an abyss because nobody helps us. I mean, we hope we do, but walk people through the process of being a caregiver, and not to infantilize the situation, but it is relatively similar to the process of having a new child. Everything in your life changes.
yeah. No, I think that's exactly right. I think what's different is that we're not very well prepared to do that for another adult. And for, whether that's a spouse or a parent. And this is a pretty nitty gritty reference point I'm going to give. But if you've changed the diapers of a baby and you've changed the diapers of your mom, it's a pretty different experience, And I think that we it's part of life. It is a nitty gritty part of life. And there's actually something quite profound about that and about that very physicality. And we shouldn't shrink from it.